Bases dropped on a Friday. Jarrett there, John here. And it is a Freestyle Friday. And the reason that we start 15 minutes early is that we kind of figured out when we were doing the Weekend Whiparound patent pending trademark coming that what would end up happening is we wouldn't get all of the games finished in the preview section before we would get to 9:30, which is when our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring join us. And then getting to 10 o'clock. And then once we're back on the other side of that, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we've got to pick up where we left off. Where did we leave off? Those kinds of things. And so that's why we've started doing the show 15 minutes early on Friday so we can get everything in before Beyond Goals and then circle back around at 10 o'clock and get things squared away. So opening kickoff this morning brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, you can follow along Kickoff Coffee on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. I will once again yield the QR code here off to my right shoulder. And if I need to once again rip the banner off of the stand here to my right so you guys can get it a little easier and it can be closer up on the screen, let me know and I'll do that in future weeks. And then we can get back to seeing scarves. Morning, Bam. Morning to everybody who is hopping in this morning. Once again, use the code soccer down here 15. Get 15% off of your purchase when it comes to our friends at Kickoff Coffee. And then they, in turn, take 10% of their proceeds, roll them over into the youth initiatives and the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from them at kickoffcoffeeco.com. So for opening kickoff this morning, I figured we would just go ahead since we kind of got into it yesterday afternoon with our visit from Nico Moreno, who got definite bonus points for fixing a flat tire and still doing the afternoon Thursdays with Nico. So massive bonus points to Nico yesterday for getting a flat, fixing a flat, being in his car, doing the segment with us yesterday. So massive bonus points, and that is up on the network for those of you that missed it live yesterday. But Joseph Martinez, he was discussed by Gonzalo Pineda in his weekly press conference, getting ready for the match with Toronto. We'll get into that probably after 10 o'clock as well. Just a quick preview of the game in and of itself. Pineda told, this is from Tom Bogert over at MLSsoccer.com, quote, "This time we felt it was the right time to take action." Pineda admitted that there have been multiple cases or situations of bad behavior. And once again, those are multiple cases or situations in quotation marks, bad behavior in quotation marks with Joseph Martinez. Pineda told the local media at training on Thursday, "This time we felt it was the right time to take action." Set some things straight. He said, "We were arguing, we were having a discussion, but we were always 2 or 3 yards away from each other. We did not have a physical altercation." And also, Gonzalo Pineda said, quote, "I was very clear with him that he's welcome back on Monday. He's valuable to all of us here. He's a great player, and I want him back. It's just a matter of what is more important, the culture or scoring goals. And for me, it's culture over anything." And Pineda also said that they would cross the bridge if we get there if Joseph was not to show up on Monday. Quoting Pineda again, "We're all human beings. We all have good sides. We all have bad sides. The good sides of Joseph are massive. He's a great person. I have no doubt about it. He has a great heart, but as anyone else, we all make mistakes. We still have a good relationship, and I can easily talk to him. I have nothing against him." And then he was asked later on in the press opportunity, he didn't answer directly when he was asked if he wanted Joseph back in 23, saying he's focused only on the game this weekend, continuing to fight for the playoffs. And that should be the answer in this situation, is focus on what's in front of you and not worry about next season because you ain't there yet. So that's the rundown of Gonzalo Pineda discussing Joseph Martinez yesterday. And, Jarrett, that's where we are. Once again, right now, Atlanta United is going to, figure out what they need to do against a team in Toronto the second T is silent. I should know that by now. But a team in Toronto that is different on the road than they are at home. You just look at the numbers, and that backs it up. But, once again, Gonzalo Pineda addresses the media over the situation with Joseph Martinez. The team is focused on Toronto FC, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, like we talked about before with the Joseph thing, and I'll make my side of it quick. You got to make a decision. If it becomes like a repeat offender thing, you have to make that decision real damn quick of, if you don't provide punishment, then do you let everyone walk over
Right.
you? You can't have multiple settings.
Right. And that's where we are. So we will get into that, and we'll get into the Toronto preview coming up at 10 o'clock and beyond this morning.
Yeah, it's just I thought Gonzalo handled pretty well yesterday. Like, yeah, it's the same. It's yeah, you've levied a punishment against him.
Yeah.
Doesn't make anybody good or bad in the situation. People exploded because emotions are raw because it's been a bad year. It's been a really crappy year for everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, cool. It's out of everybody's system. Okay, here's what had to happen. Okay, we're done. We're past it. Cool. Let's reset next Monday, and that's going to take everybody being big going next Monday to deal with it. And then until then, you got to deal with Toronto because even though your playoffs are, not good at all, your playoff opportunities are all but shot. That doesn't mean you can't get yourself embarrassed in the last few games, and Toronto would be happy to do that.
Yep.
So you got to stay locked in.
No doubt about it. So what we're going to do now is start the weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming, hopefully. Bam with a good point. He says for the Kickoff Coffee QR code, could I have a photo of it that pops up on screen while I talk about it? I could if I learn technology. So yes.
Bam, I don't know what the shipping is like to Australia. Just be aware.
Yes.
I don't know what their protocol is for shipping to Australia.
Right. But hey, it was one way to find out. All right. So going over all of the matchups as we do, what we do is we go with the Juice Box aggregate, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. It's a composite of about roughly 16 different juice box purveyors from around the world. And we take that average, and that's the number that we use when it comes to our previews of these particular games. And we actually have Friday night football tonight, Jarrett, to start us off. 7:30 Eastern, CF Montreal hosting Columbus Crew at Stade Saputo. CF Montreal is a minus 123. Your draw is a plus 259. Crew are a plus 340 in the composite. Normal pregame, so it is on television on both sides locally. So it's
never trust your pregame from MLS.
That's
ever. Whatever they tell you, just basically bank on 20 minutes extra. At least y'all could do is be like Fox does with football. When they say, hey, Sunday football kicks off at 105, Sunday football is going to kick off at 105. Pregame shows from 12 to 105, and we watch Terry Bradshaw with a concussion and Howie Long with a bad hip try and get through a pregame show. It ain't what it was in the 90s. God bless them for trying. But at least they got the kickoff times right and accurate.
Yeah.
Get with the damn program, MLS. When you have become a meme to everyone who is associated or covers or is around you as a league, don't intentionally be the clown here.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the funny clown, and you sure as hell don't want to be Pagliacci.
So it is an 8-minute pregame show, normal kick, 7:38 Stade Saputo. Fun facts. This will be the Crew's first visit to Montreal since a 1-0 defeat in April 2019. Montreal's won 6 of its last 7 true home games against Columbus, losing the only other one, keeping clean sheets in 5 of those 7. CF Montreal's 4-3 win over Toronto FC was nuts. That's not the official note. That's just a personal observation. Over Toronto FC on Sunday was their 16th win of the year, taking them to 52 points. Both setting new single-season club records. Montreal's won 7 of their last 10, drawing 2, losing 1, though the only defeat came in the club's last home match, losing 1-0 to Red Bulls. Crew have played a scoreless draw against the Fire on Saturday, extending their run of just 1 defeat in their last 16 MLS matches, winning 6, drawing 9. Columbus is one of 2 teams, Cincinnati being the other, Israel, with fewer than 2 losses since the start of June. What say you, Jarrett Smith?
I say Montreal. I think Montreal is going to keep as close a pace as they can with Philadelphia. Crew are a better team than they were before the summer. Cucho will do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how good are they? Crew might be a team that you don't want to play in the playoffs because you don't want it to come down to 90 minutes and Cucho Hernandez. This is the same philosophy we had with Joseph Martinez in his prime of you don't want Atlanta in the playoffs because you don't want 90 minutes of Joseph. You don't really want 90 minutes of Cucho.
No.
Give me Montreal in this one, but Columbus is going to be problematic in the playoffs.
What you said, I agree. I think that CF Montreal gets this one, and we'll go over the standings kind of simultaneously here in in the motion. Crew have drawn 4 of their last 5. They're at 40 points. They're in 6th. 2 points behind the team in Central Florida, only a point ahead of Cincinnati, 2 points ahead of the Revs, who are out of the playoff picture currently. CF Montreal has a bit of a cushion, 8 points behind Philly in 2nd, 5 points ahead of Red Bulls in 3rd in the East. Next up, we go to Saturday. Then 1 o'clock start in Charlotte. This one could be interesting when it comes to heat and summer and weather and stuff. That's the official term. Charlotte hosting NYCFC. Kudos to, yeah, exactly. Kudos to our friend Dylan Butler, who got to sit in and do color commentary with Glenn Crooks for their game in the midweek against FC Cincinnati. NYC coming off of the 1-1 draw there. Charlotte is a plus 131. Your draw is a plus 260. It is moving as I'm talking. It went from 256 to 260, and NYC is a plus 188 on the road.
If you haven't seen, go look up NYC's own goal in the midweek. It's one of the most hilariously bad own goals you will see. Probably for the rest of the calendar year, maybe for the next 2 years. Like if this was like Eastern Europe, or if this was like AFCON, you'd be like, oh, somebody threw the game. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
It was hilariously bad. I don't know what to pick with this, man. Like,
so that sounds like a draw to me.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. Like, Charlotte has hit the skids late in the season, which I thought would happen because they lack depth and they don't have guys to kind of carry them over the line, and they've been hit by some injuries. It's like it was a worst case scenario for an expansion team to have to deal with. But NYC cannot consistently get out of their own way.
Nope.
So I would not be surprised if you look up at this one and go, hey, that's Charlotte's last fun win of the year. Because Charlotte beat their ass in NYC not that long ago. Give me Charlotte, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah. I don't feel great about it either. Charlotte right now has lost 4 of 5, 3 in a row. They've lost 17 of 29 this year. They're at 32 points. And NYC has lost 3 of 4. They've only gotten 1 point in their last 4 matches, and that was in the midweek. 46 points, 1 point behind Red Bulls. But the team in Central Florida has won 4 on the spin, and they are 4 points behind with 2 matches in hand. So after today, after the weekend, NYC will only have 3 other matches this season, and the teams behind them will have more. So you look at it that way.
NYC is in a world of pain.
Yes. So I would go with I'll go with Charlotte kind of begrudgingly, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was something akin to a draw when it comes to those 2 particular sides. So next up on the board in the weekend whip-around.
Emilio, everyone has more road wins than Atlanta does. Like, that's literally every team in the league, my man.
Right.
Like, they're not great on the road. We'll get to them, but like saying anyone has more road wins than Atlanta is, I think, pretty much every team in the league. So yeah, you can list off any team and they'll have more road wins than Atlanta does. Atlanta's only got 1, and that was in DC with Marcelino Moreno scoring in like the 88th minute or something. So yeah, I just saying, like that's pretty much everybody.
Yeah, been that kind of a year. 6 o'clock. It's actually 3:30 kick. Nashville hosting LAG at Geodis. Nashville is a minus 122 in the composite. Your draw is a plus 285. LAG is a plus 301. And it's interesting that neither the Charlotte game or the Nashville game do not have lines, courtesy of our friends at BetMGM. Who knows why? So this one is on Univision and TUDN and Twitter. So it is an Univision supersized pregame show, 3:50 kick Eastern time. So if you're going to watch this one, it's 3:50, not 3:38. Fun facts. The only previous meeting between Nashville and the Galaxy was a 1-0 home win for the Galaxy April 23rd. Dejan Joveljic, the Bishop, came off the bench to score the game's only goal in the 86th minute. Nashville's won 4 straight matches for the first time in club history. Following a 3-0 win over Austin on Saturday, Nashville scored at least 3 times in all 4 of those games, scoring 3 or more goals in just 3 of their first 26 MLS matches this season. Galaxy are unbeaten in a season-best 5 straight, winning 2, drawing 3. Managed to win only 2 of those games despite holding the lead at some point in all 5. And so I feel like I should, as a public service, remind everyone of this.
Chicharito Hernández va por su hat-trick. ¡Chicharo! ¡Oh, no lo puedo creer! ¡No lo puedo creer!
That's the edited version, but yeah, I feel like that's almost a public service at this point.
Yeah.
What say you, Jared Smith?
Man, okay, it's Nashville here. Watch LA miss LA miss the playoffs, and then we have to test Jason's theory that a playoff miss cost Greg Vanny his job.
Yeah. Right now, the way that things are in the West with those folks, Nashville is fourth, a point behind FC Dallas. Nashville has won 4 in a row since they chose offense. And LAG had Chicharito not attempted the Panenka that was saved by Pulse Camp by Sporting last time out. Unbeaten in their last 5, don't get me wrong with the Galaxy, but those 2 extra points would have put them 1 point behind RSL and Portland in the race for the playoffs. They would be ahead of Portland. They would be on the same number of wins as RSL, and they would be ahead of RSL on goal difference right now. But they're still 3 points back, so that's where we are. I got to go with Nashville here just because Nashville has chosen offense recently, and I've just got to go in that direction. So I'll go with the home side at Geoda's. That's just me. Next one on the board, it goes to 6 o'clock. Red Bulls and Revs. Red Bulls a minus 112. Revs a plus 288. Your draws a plus 271. Do we need to go any further?
No.
That's what I figured. Red Bulls. Part of the action at 7:30, 3 games, Atlanta United, Toronto FC. Dress for weather, at least outside, because it's supposed to be pretty nasty today and tomorrow. FC Cincinnati hosting your Quakes. FC Cincinnati's a minus 156. Your draws a plus 326. And San Jose is a plus 373. Do we need to proceed?
No, even though Cincinnati played in the midweek, you don't need to proceed.
7:30, Philadelphia and Orlando City. Philadelphia is an even larger favorite at a minus 192. Your draw is a plus 330. Orlando City is a plus, in the composite, a plus 494. 494. That's where Orlando City is, especially after playing in the midweek and winning U.S. Open Cup.
Oh, they're mentally, yeah. This is a classic. This is a classic letdown game after you won the cup.
Yeah. Standard pregame, and it is local TV on both sides. Just for the information purposes only. Union have won each of their last 2 matches against Orlando City, including a 1-0 away victory July 23rd. Neither team has managed 3 straight wins against the other in the MLS history of the rivalry. Union tied 1 MLS record, set another following their 2-0 win over the Red Bulls on Saturday. Philadelphia has 18 goals in their last 4 games, equaling the most in a 4-game span in MLS history, while their plus 17 goal difference in those games, 18-1, is the largest in a 4-game span in league history. Orlando City's won their last 4 MLS matches, the club's longest winning streak since a 6-match run in March through May of 2018. The 4 straight wins come immediately following a stretch of just 2 wins in 12, where they lost 6 and drew only 4. This has the letdown element completely and totally stamped all over it. This one, if you haven't set your fantasy teams, thanks once again to our friends at the Jason Wright Agency. Jason Wright with the WAGEN on Twitter, Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. If you didn't set your teams squared away with a double match week involving players with NYC and FC Cincinnati, you might take folks from Philadelphia because of what they're going up against in Orlando City. And, of course, now that we're saying all of this, watch Orlando City win by the score of 3-1, something like that. So standings, just to integrate Orlando into the discussion. Philadelphia, we mentioned them. They're at the top, 8 points clear. Orlando, 42 points, 4 wins on the spin. Matches in hand above the teams above them. They have matches in hand. So there's still some movement that can be made there, but it's crowded. Orlando City at 42 points. Red Bulls at 47, NYC at 46.
Oh, Orlando's been so weird because of the fact, go back to when Atlanta played them. And you were getting so many flashing red lights in the submarine that was Orlando. And it wasn't just the Atlanta games before and after that. If you watched them, you're thinking, okay, this team is hanging on by their fingernails. They're not great. Like, they're a good team. They're not a great team. And they just kind of were floating on along and really tempting fate. But they've managed to string it together enough where they're comfortably in the picture. And they also have a U.S. Open Cup under their belt now. I don't really know what to make of them. They're still schizophrenic. They will still have games where they show you these warning signs. Where you're like, oh, this is a team waiting to implode. But then they just kind of get it across the line. I don't think they'll win this game against Philly, and I don't really know how to predict them anymore.
No. So I think Philadelphia gets this one done. It wouldn't surprise me if they put up another number, but we'll see what happens with Philadelphia hosting Orlando City and Chester at 7:30. 8 o'clock, Chicago Fire hosting Inter Miami, and for, once again, the information purposes attached. Inter Miami's at 36 points, 28 matches played. They have a match in hand in regard to the Revs and FC Cincinnati, who are directly above them in the standings. Inter Miami at 36 points. They've lost 2 in a row, and they are 3 points out of the playoff spot with FC Cincinnati right now at 39. And Chicago at 32 points, minus 10 in goal difference, only 8 wins. They're 13th in the table. They've drawn their last 2. And so that's where Chicago is in this particular run of information with this matchup. Looking at the juice boxes in it, the Fire are a minus 109. The draw and Inter Miami in the composite from the match from those juice box purveyors are at a plus 272. I almost actually gave them their real name. So plus 272 for Inter Miami in this one. BetMGM has them as high as plus 280. 8-minute pregame show, so it's an 8:08 kick, local TV on both. Fun facts. The Fire in Miami played a scoreless draw in Fort Lauderdale back on February 26 in the season opening match for both teams. Each side won at home against the other in 2021 in the first 2 meetings between the teams in MLS. Fire failed to score for the 4th straight game in Saturday's scoreless draw with Columbus. 3rd time since last October that Chicago's gone 4 straight without scoring, though they've never gone 5 straight without finding the net in the club's MLS history. Yikes. Inter Miami's won just 1 of their last 11 away matches, losing 7 of those. A 1-0 win at San Jose August 3rd. Sorry, Jarrett. Both of Miami's road wins this season have come against Western foes, also Seattle, while the Herons have just 2 points from 10 away matches against teams from the East. What say you, Jarrett Smith?
I'm stuck between a Miami win or a draw. Like, this has been Chicago's problem all year. They score in bunches, but then they go dead for a while. And their problem is now they are facing a team that involves Drake Callender, who is more than capable of continuing that trend for them. Give me Miami on the win.
Okay.
Really great job by Phil Neville down there, who I think people wondered if he would survive the season. And even if they had had a bad season, I think it would have been unfair to question if he could have survived the season because of the sanctions they had put against them.
Yeah.
Because of people's past decision making. But, man, they've done so well. And some of that's finding guys like Campana and finding value and him tinkering with stuff. Like, early in the season, it was ugly. He had to make adjustments on the fly. And they have some really ugly performances early in the year. But they kind of grinding this out. Give me Inter Miami over Chicago.
I'll go draw just because of Slanina and net. It might be an ugly goalless draw. I'll go 1 point on the board for each, creeping them further up the table in some cases or just moving them up in the point standings. 8 o'clock. This one's going to be one of the fun ones. The fun ones seem to be out west this week. And public service reminder, we do have midweek whip-arounds next week, so we'll have some fun with that as well. 8 o'clock also, but it's 5 o'clock at Lumen. Seattle hosting Austin. And we went into this in depth with Nico Moreno yesterday. So once again, that show is up on the network with Nico and his 3rd cup of coffee. Seattle right now is a minus 128. Your draw is a plus 292. Austin is a plus 313. Here's where the standings are. In the West, 9-point cushion from LAFC to Austin. Austin has lost 3 of 4. Austin at 51 points has 5 points clear of FC Dallas in third. Seattle needs this one. They've lost 3 of 5, only won once in that grouping. They're at 36 points, 6 points out of the playoff push in general. So Seattle has to have this one. So we'll play fun facts here. Starting off first and foremost, normal pregame show. If you're going to watch this one on your favorite provider, local television for both. Sounders are unbeaten in 3 matches against Austin with a win and 2 draws, including the 1-1 draw at Q2 March 20. Only 1 goal scored in the 2 meetings between the sides in 2021, with Seattle winning 1-0 away in July and a scoreless draw in the only meeting in Seattle in May. Sounders snapped a 5-match winless run with a 2-1 victory over Houston on Sunday. That got Paulo Nagamura fired. Seattle has just 2 winning streaks this season, both 2, as the only seasons in which they had fewer than 3 different winning streaks were 2018 and 2020, where they had 2 each. Austin has lost consecutive matches for the second time this season following the 3-0 defeat at Geodis on Saturday. Austin has lost its last 2 on the road following a run of 12 road games in which it lost only twice, winning 8. What say you, Jared Smith?
It's in Seattle, but give me Austin in a tight one. Like, man, people got opinions about Austin too, man. Like, we saw this with national writers and talking heads at the mothership all week about Austin feeling disrespected, and then people going, "Well, I don't know, they don't need to talk about that. Why are they feeling disrespected?" Like, I mean, because nobody believed in them until halfway through the summer.
Yeah.
And they were putting together results. They still drop a stinker every once in a while.
You're a second-year club.
You're still kind of putting all of that together, and no one's perfect in this league. You have dropped some really ugly games. Nashville last time out being one of them. But some of that might also be you ran into a hot Nashville team who has just rediscovered how to score goals, and that scoring goals is good and fun. But yeah, I guess I'll take Austin here. Seattle's pretty much dead in the water. It's gotten to the point where I'm wondering with Seattle, like in the same sense of Atlanta, I don't think they will throw in the towel. They will be an annoying out to have to deal with. But Seattle is still missing Roldan. They are not perfect. Raul Ruiz-Diaz can still jump up and bite you, however. And Austin has been prone to giving up goals. They just need good goalkeeper performances from Brad Stuber.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Austin in a really fun one, like a sneaky fun game.
I think it'll be fun. I think that Seattle with their backs against
it's okay to feel dirty doing that. It's okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I'll go with Seattle in this one, and I think it will be one of those fun ones that you're talking about. I think that it might be, one of those goofy, crazy ones, especially with it's I guess MLS late afternoon. So let's see, 8 minus 3 is 5:00 start, 5:08 local. I think Seattle gets it done. Wouldn't be surprised if it was like a 3-2 or something like that. I think Jordan Morris comes up big, and I think it's half past crazy by the time we're done with Seattle and Austin. 8:30, and this is where BAM comes into play here. FC Dallas hosting LAFC. This one is interesting because what was the win rate for teams on the road this year, Jared? And I was having a bit of a conversation with Michael Head, thinking it's like
I was going to get to that Michael and Emilio were going over. I was going to get to that when we got to the Atlanta game. Yeah. Thank you for pointing out I was incorrect. Colorado and San Jose both have one road win too. Great company. Good job, Atlanta.
Yeah.
Good company to keep, guys, in 2022. The win rate's never good in this league. The win rate this year has been weird. I don't know what it is because it might be different next year. The weird anomaly in all this is that Red Bulls have been infinitely better on the road than at home because teams are going to Red Bull Arena and sitting deep and daring Red Bulls to beat them, and they can't.
Mm-hmm.
But what they can do is they can go on the road where you're more comfortable and turn you over and beat you. It's been a very weird year on the road for a lot of teams. Like, you got some really weird road results. Like, for Atlanta's sake, the 3 that stick out to you. There's 3 that stick out to me, I should say. The Columbus game was a weird one. You had the questions on the calls, but you played pretty well. You felt like you should have come out of that with 3 points on the road. You lose 1-0 early in the season to Charlotte when Charlotte was still clicking on a Golympico.
Yep.
That whether or not he was going for it remains to be seen. I think he may have been,
Yeah.
personally. I know it was kind of quite discussed. I thought the consensus was he was going for it. I think he was. It was very pretty. Don't know if he could do it again.
Yep.
And then you get the Miami game where you had the lead. You gave up the lead to Miami. And in the process, then you get the penalty late in the game that doesn't get called, that Pros comes back and says, oh, no, that was incorrect. It should have been given. In a game where you had a 1-0 lead and you threw it away. So, I mean, those are the ones that stick out to me. Everything else on the road this season, well, Toronto kind of sticks out because you have the injury and warm-ups that I maintain messed with their heads.
No doubt.
Because they give up the early goal where they're kind of shell-shocked. They get one back, then they give up another one in the second half and lose 2-1. You've had a couple of road games this year that you would really like to have back, which you could say about the entire season for Atlanta. And every team has games like that they want to have back. The bottom line is that you've only won one of them. And I think it was Emilio said it is right. If you've won 2 or 3 of them, you're in a much better position in life. But at this point, all you can do is win what's in front of you, and that still might not matter because you're going to need help. All you can do is win what's in front of you and see what happens because you put yourself in this position.
Yeah, that's where we are where Atlanta United's concerned. We'll get into that preview coming up in just a little bit. I think that, I've got to go. Yeah, I'll go in that direction too when it comes to Atlanta, and we'll get into Atlanta and Toronto. So FC Dallas and LAFC. FC Dallas is a home dog. We mentioned how difficult it is to win on the road. LAFC is a plus $1.25. FC Dallas is a plus 200, and your draw is a plus 257 in this particular match at Toyota Stadium. So let's drift into fun facts here with a road favorite for a change. 8-minute pregame, so normal television, local TV on both sides. LAFC's won their last 3 against Dallas, including a 3-1 home win June 29. LAFC's won 4 of the 7 all-time, but only one of the 3 played in Dallas, winning one, or drawing one, and losing one on the others. FCD scored all 3 of their goals in a span of 3 minutes and 43 seconds against Minnesota on Saturday. Jarrett left the press box in the S suite, and it was goalless. He came back in, and it was 3-0, and I think Fragapane had gotten his red by that time, too.
Fastest he got it when I was literally walking in the room.
Fastest the team has scored 3 times in MLS since at least 2010, beating Dallas's 3 goals in 3:53 against Austin last August. LAFC snapped a 3-match losing streak all on the road with a 2-0 home win over RSL on Sunday. LAFC has collected 78 more points at home, 172, than on the road, 94 in their MLS history. Only RSL plus 84 has a larger difference at home since LAFC entered in MLS in 2018. What say you, Jared Smith?
You know what? Give me LAFC finally winning a game in Texas.
Okay.
I think they kind of righted the ship against RSL and figured out how to use all those pieces because the answer, and this will be a shock to everybody, the answer wasn't throw everything on the field with tons of money and talent and it will work itself out. Like it is deeper than that. It's not a video game. This isn't FIFA. You have to find the right combinations of people who work together and play together and work. Like Vela and Bale on the field at the same time, with different combinations, it wasn't working. But I think they figured it out and they can pick their spots with guys. And then that's okay. You don't have to start, 3 monsters, the 3-headed monsters up top. You don't have to have a Cerberus coming out of the gate. You can just pick and choose and provide that depth because it is just as taxing on a team to play you if you can bring in guys like that off the bench that fit into the flow of things one after the other as much as that one big haymaker to start the game. It can be just as effective not to throw that haymaker at the start, but to throw, a very succinct combination of effective jabs.
Yeah.
And I think LAFC is figuring that out. And I think Steve Cherundolo is figuring it out. And that's good. I mean, it just took time. You got a bunch of new pieces. You got to figure out how they work together. I think they're figuring it out, and I think it will be Dallas who suffers because of it.
I'll go with Dallas at home. Bam mentioned on his podcast, the LAFC centric from down under, expecting the same front three as the last game, but with Dolo, you could do Bale, Trejo, and Vela as a front three, and you need to start the best scoring defender. And Ryan Hollingshead, does he have his mustache, or did he get rid of it? I forget what the.
I think he still has it.
Okay.
It is not Spencer Strider-esque, but very few people are.
Right.
Ryan Hollingshead is not quite your Huckleberry, but he is approaching Huckleberry status.
Yes. So, I was trying to figure out if it was the whole Samson thing was related to the mustache one way or the other. So I'll go with Dallas. LAFC still stumbling on the road. Sorry, Bam. 8:30 also. Houston, their first match without Paulo Nagamura on the touchline as head coach. A plus 117 at home against Sporting Kansas City. They're a plus 206. The draw is a plus 271. Does Houston get the interim coach bump, or is it Sporting who have found their offense on the road, do you think?
Oh, it's Sporting.
Okay.
It's Sporting choosing violence.
Okay. So
I don't know how to fix Houston.
No, other than get to the offseason and start over. And I want to know what the coaching search looks like. I want to see what Ted Siegel and the Pat Onstad in the front office are looking at. I want to see who they bring in as head coach, and then I want to see philosophically. I mean, you brought in Ache and Ferreira, and they haven't figured out how to best use them as a part of this rebirth with a new ownership group in Houston. So I want to see what it looks like in the offseason, who they bring in, and what they do stylistically and philosophically with who's already there, who stays and who goes. So that's biggest thing for me. 9:30 Eastern, Colorado and the Prairie Dogs hosting the Whitecaps. Colorado's a minus 147. Your draw's a plus 318. Vancouver is a plus 348. Do we need to go any further?
No.
Colorado. All right.
Yes.
RSL and DC United. Do we need to go in there at all?
Oh, man. In RSL, man, you're at the Riot? You took DC to the Riot? Oh,
yes.
My God.
Yes.
That could be weird because RSL has some Jekyll and Hyde in them, but yeah, give me RSL. This offseason will be very interesting to watch DC to see how Rooney changes things up. He already made some changes, guys like Russell leaving. I want to see how else he changes this team.
Yeah, I mean, you brought in Benteke, and we'll see if he is the Belgian bread loaf as he was in his latter stages in the Premier League, or if he comes in with this new lease on life with Ravel Morrison and everybody else that Wayne Rooney wants to bring in, and see what things are philosophically. But right now, I think it's just trying to get to the end of the year. RSL's a minus 159. I think they get it. MLS After Dark at Providence Park, Portland. A lot of alliteration from anxious anchors placed on powerful posts this morning. 10 o'clock Eastern, MLS After Dark. Portland hosting Minnesota United. No Fragapane for Minnesota. Portland a minus 118. Your draw's a plus 296. And Minnesota United is a plus 277. So since it is the last game on the board, we will do fun facts. BetMGM does not have a number posted on this one. Normal pregame, 8 minutes, local TV, both sides. Timbers in Minnesota played a 4-4 draw at Allianz July 30 in a match that was the first in league history to see both teams score at least 4 and receive at least 4 yellow cards. Sebastian Blanco scored the opening goal after 13 seconds, the fourth fastest goal in MLS history. Timbers have won 3 consecutive games for the first time since last season's run to MLS Cup final, including the 2-1 win over Atlanta last week. Portland's won 9 of their last 10 that it has played in September, drawing the other. Minnesota suffered consecutive 3-0 defeats after losing just once in their previous 11 league matches, winning 8, drawing 2. It's the first time the Loons have lost consecutive games by at least 3 goals since their first 2 matches in Major League Soccer in March 2017, losing 5-1 at Portland and 6-1 versus Atlanta. What say you for MLS After Dark, Jarrett Smith?
You know what? Give me Portland keeping on.
Yeah, I think so.
Minnesota hit that self-destruct button like real hard in that game with Dallas. And I kind of felt like a game like that might have been coming. I didn't think it would happen like that. I didn't think it would happen like a 5 minute. We went from this game is tied to, oh, we're done here. I
Yeah.
didn't think it would happen that quickly.
Yeah.
But I thought they were kind of due to have a game where they just kind of regressed in the game. Not like the sky is falling moment, but like hey, this isn't perfect kind of moment, you know?
Yeah.
Minnesota can still be scrappy. Portland, though, has found something here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to recognize that Portland is sitting there with a playoff spot right now. Now, granted, LA Galaxy have 2 games in hand on them and are 3 points back. The
They should be only 1 point back, sir. LAG should only be 1 point back, sir. Because of that moment that we played earlier in the show.
Yeah. Well, be that as it may,
I know there's still 3.
Portland is they should be 1 point back. And if frogs had wings, they wouldn't bump their ass when they jump.
There you go.
But as it stands, they're 3 points back. Portland has to continue to win, and I think Gio Savarese, for all of the this is a weird thing with Portland because I feel like every year we go through this swoon in the summer of Portland. Like, man, it's just not working. Portland's gonna have to do this, that, and the other. Got to destroy everything. They just need to break it all down and tear it down. They probably do. Like, that team is getting old. Chadai is getting old. You got to make some changes. Maybe so, but whenever that happens, I always look at the standings. I'm like, they're in 7th place or 8th place or 6th place. Like, they're never in the basement when we have those conversations. So like, it's like kind of like maybe don't take it to DEFCON 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should probably plan the teardown.
There's some remodeling that's got to happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got to open up this concept. We're going to combine this living room and this kitchen. We're going to put in some shiplap. We're going to put in a sliding barn door. We're going to get Chip and Joanna in on this one. Get them out of Waco and get them up to Portlandia.
There you go.
But yeah, there's work to be done. But Portland can still drag this thing across the line, especially with only a few games left in the season. I can completely see Portland dragging this thing across the line because they are a veteran team. They can do it over a short span, and then they can kind of be an uncomfortable game to play in the playoffs.
No doubt. So we'll see what happens with that one. I've got to go with Portland as well. I know that you are looking forward to coming back after 9:30, 10 o'clock and beyond. But early preview from you when it comes to Atlanta United and Toronto FC. What are you looking at?
Keep it clean early on. Toronto will try and blitz you. They'll try and get those early goals, whether it be off set pieces or open play, transition moments. You have to control those moments, and you want to keep it clean, or hell, find a goal for yourself if you can early on. Look, Toronto has world beaters, and you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's. Now that might be Santi Sosa, and I would like to see a Marseille in this one.
Yeah.
With the way he's been playing, I think he's earned it. But those guys are going to have to be in their P's and Q's in the midfield so that you can at least try and slow things down so you're not running downhill at guys like Juancho Purata and Alan Franco.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough assignment for Caleb Wiley as well, I'm sure. I'm interested to see how they come out and deal with it.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can't, like, with all of the chaos that has happened this week, you still have to compartmentalize it, which is part of being a pro athlete. You've got to compartmentalize it, and you've got to deal with the 90 minutes in front of you. Otherwise, you will have problems.
And we will talk to someone here coming up in just a sec about compartmentalizing as he is getting ready for the Friday free kick. Jarrett, we'll catch up with you in just a little bit.
Sounds good.
All right. So it is that time. It is 9:30 on Friday, and I'm going to have to do some multitasking here. I will see if I can actually do like multiple things at one time, and I know that I won't be able to do all of them at one time, so I might have to filibuster a little bit. But it is time for this. Hey, Kat, what's going on?
John, good, thanks. How are you?
All right, so here's the fun part. first and foremost, when I have multiple windows open, that was an email coming in from a source that I didn't really care about. That's what you heard just there. So, all right. So spot me a second and tell me what you had for breakfast while I promote the fact that you are here discussing things on the show this week. What'd you have for breakfast?
John, I am a huge breakfast person. It is my favorite meal of the day, and I've always been a big breakfast eater. So it's one of the things I miss most about my time at Atlanta United. It was going in, sitting down, and having the same breakfast every day while watching Sports Center or talking with guys or reading a newspaper. Always one of the first ones there, and just nice quiet breakfast. And still today, I still have basically the same breakfast every day. So that's three eggs, a piece of toast, and some fruit.
So what kind of eggs do you like? Are you a scrambled guy? What kind of eggs are we talking about here?
When I cook at home, I'm about an 80-20% mixture. 80% usually just scrambled, easy. 20% I'll fry them.
Okay. All right. So that was an excellent filibuster, sir. Thank you very much. When we get into the stretch run of the season, and I imagine that today's conversation is probably going to drift into topics that you've talked about a little bit this week, but I also want to keep it within the context of mentoring and advice for younger players and things like that. When you look at what Atlanta United has gone through this week, what runs through your mind about making news off the pitch before a match that is as important as this one is coming up on Saturday?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody involved, right? Your focus is shifted a little bit because of what's going on off the field. And, that's never a good thing. It just seems like there's been a lot of that this year. And maybe that's the reason why we're in a spot we're in right now. It's tough. And, obviously two different stories completely, and both, well, for sure in Miles's case, I support Miles. And I think there's a lot more to that story that, than the police report says. And so, that's one thing. And then, Joseph obviously is another big story. I think there's two sides to it. I think one is, I get it. Hey, if I were a betting man, I would have bet money that Joseph went in there in the locker room after the game and ripped into stuff and had to go and was upset. How could you not be?
Yeah.
So I get it. But then on the other hand, there's, and that's where Joseph struggled. I think that it comes from a good place in his heart, and it comes from he cares and he wants to win and he's frustrated. But then sometimes the emotions overrun, and, he struggles with that fine line, that balance that we talk about with everything in life, right? Of, where to cut it off sometimes, and to, you've made your point and now let it go before it gets too far. And, apparently this one went too far for the coaching staff and the club's liking, and they handle it different. This happened multiple times with Tata. Joseph, would be agitated, and, there's something to that because he's holding the team and the club accountable. But sometimes you look at the other side and say, hey, you're being a child and you can't act like that, so there's a real fine line. So it's just unfortunate that we're at where we're at right now.
And that's why I wanted to have that as kind of like the opening of the door when it comes to mentoring and consulting younger players, because there will be times in a younger person's life where you will have these kinds of moments, and compartmentalizing from, if you're not the one who's directly associated with the event, you're going to have to compartmentalize because of the task at hand and knowing that there are other things that you wish to accomplish with you and your teammates. And I think that it's it's a learning point for a lot of young folks. It's a learning point, frankly, for adults, even as we, are growing older and we have the workplace and all these kinds of things. But compartmentalizing from an athletic standpoint, it's going to be one of those early lessons that younger athletes have to focus. And when you and Greg are talking about these kinds of things from a mentoring perspective and tuning out noise and focusing and compartmentalizing, I guess that might even be three different things. What are those conversations like about compartmentalizing and focusing on the task in front of you so you're not distracted from the larger picture?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, that's a challenge for everybody because, we're athletes and, we've got things going on the field. Every athlete is a human being, right? And human beings, we're all going through our own stuff off the field. And there's always stuff going on, right? Family stuff and school stuff, relationship stuff. So there's always stuff going on, right? But we always say, like, okay, you've got a finite amount of time to work on your craft or work on what you love to do, in this case being soccer. And so you want to make sure that whatever's going on outside of the field, right, you leave it there. And it's not to say it's not important, but, for this finite amount of time that you get to do something fun and, put everything into it, right? You bring some of those emotions onto the field and you focus solely on what's in front of you and what you can control. And what you can control in that moment is, your focus, your effort, how much you give and how present you are, for yourself and for your teammates. And it's not an easy task. Like you said, John, there's still adults that are learning how to do that, right? And not take work home with them or, not take attitudes from the house to their work or, what's going on, stress. Yep. So it's a really difficult thing to learn. I'm not saying it's not, I'm not saying it's easy, but the good ones are able to do it better than, the amateur ones.
So then, two-part question. How long did it take you as both an athlete and as a parent / husband to get compartmentalization locked in to where you know where you're going with it? And when it came to teammates in your past, and it could be all the way back to when you were first starting out, who are some of the better compartmentalizers that you came across and what made them good at doing that?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's difficult. The thing is, like, you don't know someone's good at compartmentalizing it because they do such a good job of, like, not letting other things affect them. And I think it's more likely the most consistent players, right? The most consistent players are usually the ones that are able to do it day in and day out and not let other things that are on their mind or what they're dealing with, right? Even contract situations, that's a big one, right? For pro athletes. But that's a good example of, like, okay, we can't control that stuff right now, or even if it is stuff that you can control outside of the field, right? It's not important to success right now on the field and what I'm trying to do. But also, I think for me, I probably have the opposite ability where I was a bit of a procrastinator, or maybe still am. And so for me, it was always like, well, I'll get to it later. And, I want to have fun here and I want to focus on soccer because this is what I love to do. And so I don't really care about anything else right now. Like, I just want to go out there and have fun in soccer because I love soccer the most. And this is what I want to focus on. So for me, I had to get better at, like, actually focusing on those things when I wasn't in soccer. Yeah. It was, for me, the compartmentalizing came a little bit easier because I just love to play soccer and really nothing else mattered when I was out there. And I guess because I felt that way growing up, it maybe helped me in adulthood. And like I said, maybe my ability, push things off helped.
So were you the kind of guy that crammed for a test? You knew a test was coming and you had, or your paper was you had a deadline, and were you the kind of guy in school that would sit there and it's like, okay, yeah, I know I've got a due date. I'll get it done. Everything will be cool and everything will be great. And then it's like the night before, it's like, oh, bleep, I've got a paper to write or I've got to study for this test. Were you that kind of a guy growing up?
Unfortunately, a little bit. I'm trying, and I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm trying to get my kids to not be that way, right? Not wait until Monday morning when you had all weekend to get your homework done or whatever it might be. But yeah, I had an ability to memorize things really quickly. And so I knew I could lean on that. But the downside was, it was in my mind for such a small amount of time before I, spit it back out for a test or something, that I didn't retain a lot of it. So, to be perfectly honest. So, a lot of my schooling, like I did great in school. I got good grades, and took it seriously and wanted to get good grades, but I didn't retain as much as I wish I did, because literally I was just focused on like, okay, memorize it real quick, spit it out for the test, rather than actually learning and then taking it in and growing.
Did that same thing happen with soccer when you started out as a professional, where it's like, okay, here's the lesson before this match, and just almost take it a match at a time before you started accumulating information and it became easier for you? Were you that way when you started out?
No, actually. No, soccer was always different. And maybe that's just because I cared about it more. Like I said, I took school seriously and wanted to get good grades and knew it was important. But I also knew that I wanted to play professional soccer, and that was, my pathway at that point. And I wanted to do that for a very long time. And so, no, which is strange. I always had, like a bit of a longer term view. I wanted to soak in as much information and learn as much as I could, on and off the field from everyone I was surrounded with. So I wish I had done a little bit of more of that off the field as well. But no, soccer always came a little different.
So when you and Greg are doing your mentoring, when you look at the younger student athletes today, how many of them are mirror images of what you were, and what's your message to them in those instances if you start to sit there and see somebody that might be, following the Parkhurst path? I mean, when do you notice those folks more, or do you notice them first, and what's your talk with those folks?
Yeah, I'll say that for the most part, kids are aware of the need to be well balanced, the need to do well in school, and the opportunity that provides. But will say that there's more pressure on kids these days, and I think that not just pressure on the field, right? There's pressure on the field for sure.
Yeah.
There's pressure to do well in school. There's peer pressure that kids have always been going through, right? We speak a lot with middle school aged, roughly that age group, some high school as well, and that's a tough period of time in life, right? You're going through a lot of things, and so there's a lot going on other than the sport, and so I think that there's some kids that are able to compartmentalize like I was, just because maybe they don't care as much about what's going on, and just want to play soccer. But I'd say there's more on the other side that have a lot of stuff going on, and tryouts and tournaments and pressure. And, how do you deal with all that stuff while trying to play soccer?
So understanding, I guess, at the beginning of this question, that the younger athletes are different because of the pressures that they face versus what you faced versus what I faced, as we went through three separate demographic groups there in that lead in. I mean, do they handle it differently? Do they handle it better than we did? When you observe the younger student athletes today, are they handling it better? Or are they just handling it differently because the pressures are different and the pressures may be more? How are they handling it these days from your perspectives when you get that first touch with them?
Yeah, differently. And I think that's just part of the environment as well. I mean, John, I'm sure when you were growing up, right, you took your fair share of
Back in the 1790s, yes, when I was growing up.
Oh man, I don't want to say abuse, but like, yeah, I'm
Well, it
sure
was the love was
tough love.
harder. It was tougher love, I think, when I was than probably when you were versus today. But I think that the love today might be just as tough, just coming at you from more angles, I would think, maybe.
Yeah, the love today is tougher in a different sense, in the sense of pressure.
Yeah.
I think, versus kind of like grit and physical or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So full disclosure, I'll go story time with John here for a second to talk about that kind of stuff. Okay. So, I mean, once again, this is a generational thing, obviously. My grandfather, OSS, which was the predecessor to the CIA, Battle of Britain, North Africa, World War II, Korea, wanted to go to Vietnam and be a part of the armed services, but he was told at the time he was too old. And so they had him working in the Army Air Corps doing other things, even when he was in his late 50s, early 60s. He was a guy that believed in the ruler. It's, you get the ruler out and it's like, okay, so you stepped out of line and this was how he was raised. He'd get out the ruler and he'd pop you with it. But then you get to that point where I want to say I might have been 12 or 13. And my grandfather, God bless him, God love him. He took the ruler and he literally was chasing after me in the house because I had done something. I think I'd mouthed off, which was completely inappropriate on my part. He takes the ruler, and it was one of those long 16-inch thick wooden rulers that had the metal strip across the top that kind of held it together. He took the ruler and he popped me in the butt with it, and the ruler snapped in half. That should tell you something about my hindquarters at the time and the jeans that I was wearing. But he hits me with it, and the ruler snaps in half. And so you've got half a ruler, and you have that metal strip just for the remainder that's just hanging there in the air. And he looked at it, and we both started laughing because that was the moment where it's like, okay, I guess I can't use this as a way to get him in line anymore. And we've got to come up with other things. So, yeah, I think that the love when I was growing up versus when you were growing up was tougher for different reasons because of what the generations faced and how they were raised and went in. And so, so quick story time with John. I yield the floor when it comes to tough love.
Yeah. And I think that we're all, thankful that, we've progressed as society and things are different. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, kids go through a lot more these days as far as, they're dealing with pressure from parents in sports, in school. They're dealing with social media, which we didn't have to deal with when we were young.
Yeah.
Which brings a whole new element of pressure and, self-esteem and, a whole host of issues that, thankfully we never had to deal with.
Right.
So, I think that there's a unique challenge on kids today and how they deal with those things. And, it's a tough one because, like I said, we didn't have to deal with some of the challenges that they're dealing with, right? So we didn't have to, and we don't have the experience of their being their age and dealing with it. We just know what we know, and we're trying to help our kids through it as best as we can, whether we're shielding them from social media for as long as possible, which I'm trying to do with my own kids, or, helping them adapt to it and learn how to use it positively and shut out the negative, which is always easier said than done. So, yes. It's tough sledding for kids these days. I'm not, saying it's not, but, that's also the benefit of sport, right? Where you're able to sometimes get away from all that, right? Get away from real life for a little bit, get away from all that stuff and just put all of your energy into the sport and have a release. And use those emotions to go out there and have fun and get away from, any type of responsibility off the field and, be a kid and have fun and focus on the craft.
All right. Since you mentioned social media, that'll be the next topic. Michael Parkhurst hanging out with us for the Friday Free Kick at BG Mentoring on the Twitters, at MF Parkhurst on the Twitters. Social media. When I was growing up, the only social media we had was maybe yelling back at the television. We would play outdoors. I was the kind of kid with the neighborhood. You get together with the neighborhood kids. You play baseball. you play whatever sport's on your mind, and you're there and you're out there playing until dusk happens, the light on the porch goes on, and yes, I was in that stereotypic environment, and your mom's yelling for you to come inside. That was when the games ended. You probably a little different since you were focused on trying to become a professional athlete. I was focused on trying to figure out if I could get my driver's license before I was 18. And today, social media it's a place where it can be beneficial. It can be as equally toxic, and it can be addictive when it comes to how much time you link to it and how it can impress where you go with the rest of your day. When you have these conversations about the good and bad of social media, because social media can be where you post your huddle tape, and it can sit there and be a link to a college coach. Hey, this is my huddle tape, and it can get you recruited. It can get you watched. There are positives and negatives in social media these days. When you have these kinds of discussions about riding that thin line of social media, what is that feedback like, and what are those conversations like?
Yeah, those are tough conversations, because you're right. The social media is here for good, and there is definitely some good from it, right? You can make a living off of social media these days. You can definitely use it to get jobs and to be seen and for outreach and to connect with brands. And there's a lot of good from social media, but for sure there's, like you said, there's a toxic side to social media, particularly for athletes, right? It's particularly for anyone that's in the spotlight a little bit. And particularly for teenagers who unfortunately have to deal with just other kids that are just flat out mean sometimes, right?
Yeah.
For no reason, usually other than just jealousy or, who knows, wanting to be mean. So, one of the things that we try to talk to about, on the athletic side of things is, as far as shutting off criticism or, hey, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? We always say that if you wouldn't take advice from someone on what to do, either on the field or off the field, right? If you wouldn't take advice from that person, don't take criticism from them either, right? It's not worth the time to either read it or to analyze it, because that person most likely does not have more knowledge than either yourself or your coaching staff or your parents or anything like that. They just have a voice that they want to throw out there. And so we always try and preach that, right? If you wouldn't take knowledge from them, don't take criticism. But that's on the athletic side, right? And then on the other side, it's surrounding yourself with good, positive people, right? We talk about being positive and being optimistic and a lot, and shutting out, the opposite. And you have to do that on social media too, right? There's a lot of toxic on there, and it's who you follow, it's what you experience, and some of that isn't within your control, and making sure that you're following people and putting yourself in areas of social media that are beneficial to your health and your future, rather than the opposite.
Yeah, and that's another tough line, because you don't know when you're going into a situation. At first contact, before relationships, grow and evolve, you don't know what, that first contact, you feel like you need to make that first contact. You're being cordial, you're being polite, you're adding this person to your circle. And then as that relationship evolves, it could go down one of two paths. And sadly, sometimes it can be one where that individual's just angry at you all the time for whatever reason. You didn't do A, B, C, D, or E out there. You're a disappointment. You're all these kinds of stuff, all these kinds of things. And it's a difficult dance trying to be cordial, polite, and welcoming at the same time, when that person might come back and bite you on the backside after that relationship has started, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I gauge this, and how do I walk through this social media minefield? I mean, you mentioned the difficulties. It really is difficult these days trying to juggle the good, the bad, the public, and the private, and all of this kind of stuff.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And I'm not super active on social media for a lot of those reasons, right? A lot of times and there's always times like I've thought about like, "God, I wish I could say this, but I know that there's going to be backlash from a small minority, and usually the minority is louder than the majority.
Right.
Um, and also, the arguments on social media is a no-win situation. Right? There's no winning an argument on social media, and also, right, I consider myself humorous in that I have a good sense of humor and sarcasm, right? But
No,
sarcasm doesn't go well on social media either.
no, it does not.
So, you know, I am very, very cautious about what I post, what I choose to post. Right? I very, very rarely have anything on with my family on there, and even on Twitter, I post very little, just because of that. Right? It's just, especially in today's society, it's tough to have any sort of stance on anything without the other side really bashing you. And so, the ways of having conversations about things is, I don't want to say it's over, but it's on pause right now as
Yeah.
in society today. And you have to be aware of that, and especially as a younger person, right? That you don't want to get into arguments on social media, and anything you post can live forever. And that's a lesson that needs to be learned early on too, because one day kids will be looking for jobs, and all that stuff is out there forever. Even if you delete your post, it's still probably out there.
It is in the ether someplace. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Two more things before we go. And once again, thanks for hanging out with us early on a Friday morning after you've had your eggs and breakfast. You're one step ahead of me. This is the breakfast. Actually, I had my blueberry muffin about 30 minutes before air, and the caffeine working over here. So two other things real quick. Somebody's got a birthday today, and it is a former teammate of yours. And last time I checked, he's big, he's bald, and he's some kind of a wall. It is his birthday today. What is your favorite story about Brad Gazan that you can say on the air that personifies who he is as an individual in the time that you guys have interacted together?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
What's your best birthday story? What's your best? So let's see if we can pin it down. What's your favorite? Let's do it this way. What's your favorite Brad Gazan story on his birthday?
I'll what I can say and what.
That's what I'm saying. What you can say on the air.
Yeah, there's two. I mean, Brad and I have a really good relationship. We goof around a lot, obviously, as people know. Two things that I'll remember for a long time are: one, we were together when we qualified for the 2014 World Cup in Columbus. We were both there, and we had a friendly battle of throwing beer on each other, surprisingly, during the celebrations and kind of goofing around. And I've got some of it on video, and so I remember that moment. And then also in Columbus, after a game, him, myself, and Darlington enjoying ourselves late in the evening on scooters, which probably looking back wasn't the smartest idea, and trying to go through a McDonald's drive-through and getting denied. And yeah,
Because you were on scooters as opposed to something on four wheels?
I don't know. They were probably scared of Brad, but yeah, I don't know. We weren't allowed. So we weren't too happy about that. But that was it.
He's big, he's bald, and he wants a quarter pounder, Brad Gazan. I mean, wow. Okay, and then this weekend, Atlanta's got to have it. Yeah, this is a 6-pointer basically with Toronto. Toronto and Atlanta both need 3 points in this one. I'm anticipating that this one tomorrow night's going to be half past crazy. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Toronto obviously offensively look very good these days. Their Italians are the real deal. But you can tell from last week, like they've got a tough time defending the goal, right? So there's opportunities to be had there. It's just a question of if we can finish them, right? I mean, we've created some opportunities even in Portland. But you have to finish the opportunities or the season's over. Because I agree, if you don't win, if you don't take 3 points, that's it. It maybe not mathematically, but it's it. It's done. So, I hope we come out, full steam ahead and really put it to them, because, obviously they're vulnerable in the back. Their confidence is down. So, and honestly, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 goals to win the game. So, knowing that, I really hope we get after it and have a good performance.
Latest with Beyond Goals Mentoring, what's going on?
We're making great progress with the non-for-profit side of things, really trying to grow our outreach and reach a bigger number of kids. And that process takes a long time, and there's a lot of things that go into it. And we've made substantial progress on that side, and really, really close to now raising funds, and so that we can go out there and do more and reach more and have a bigger effect. I'm coming down in October to do a few things with Atlanta United, with Beyond Soccer in the Streets, with Boys and Girls Club of Atlanta. So excited about that.
And at the same time, you will keep us posted on when SDH comes up and does the remote from Tidewater Landing. True?
Absolutely. Definitely.
We'll keep it posted on that. Cap, it's great to see you. Michael Parkhurst, Beyond Goals Mentoring, at MF Parkhurst on the Twitters, at BG Mentoring on the Twitters. We will see you next time around. Thanks for hanging out.
See you, John. Enjoy the weekend.
You bet. Michael Parkhurst. It's great to have Cap as a part of the discussion here on your Fridays, and Greg Garza and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. And so now, since it is the top of the hour, time to read a promo. And let's see if I can get the music and not have the music blare out. See, the music always lines up at 50%, so I've got to bring it down to like 15 before I hit the music note. So there we go. All right. Show's brought to us by our friends at the Lemonized Service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go. It's a Lemonized Service QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos created a customized solution for the Lemonized with all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonized Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers, kind of the environment. We like that these days, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink or in the cupboard, because when we reach under the sink or into the cupboard and we drag the masking agent out into the open, that's why they call it a masking agent, because all you're doing is masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem down to the molecule, like our friends at a Lemonized Service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy. Buy the cubic foot parts per million to come out with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's their website, eliminized.com. But do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are asking them the question from about helping you with your issues when it comes to odors and the air. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Friday, and on a Thursday, and a Wednesday, and a Tuesday, and all the other days in between. So Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH, because we read their promos at roughly the halfway point of the show. So thanks to Michael Parkhurst for hanging out with us, and it's always great insights from our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring to find out what's going on with them and get their perspectives when it comes to being a professional athlete, how it impacts student athletes today, and not just student athletes, but parents and everything. So great to catch up with them and everything going on with Beyond Goals and Parky and with Greg Garza. So wandering around the world, obviously, with the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, all English and Scottish football have been postponed this weekend. Not necessarily a real surprise. You've had some things that have been moved to Sunday. WSL season, the start of that has been delayed when the royal family figures out what The morning process is going to be in England. Then we'll figure out what's going to happen with the Premier League, the Championship, League One and League Two, SPFL, SWPL, Highland and Lowland leagues. Everything postponed this weekend there. So you've got a couple of sports in England that will be going on. And in the Commonwealth, like the PGA Championship, the BMW PGA restarts on Saturday morning. And you've got horse racing and things like that. So it will be an empty weekend, but as it should be, with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II at the age of 96. We mentioned late yesterday afternoon, Graham Potter appointed to Chelsea, a head coaching deal of 5 years. Odds that he makes it 5, I don't think they're very high. That's just me. Maybe gets 2 before he's bumped out for the next guy. But Graham Potter thought that it was time to leave Brighton, go to Chelsea. And so we'll see what happens there. But, it'll be a very, very interesting test case for Graham Potter with what Bowley Clear Lake wanted to do. And if they, and the one thing that you look at with Bowley Clear Lake is that legitimately, if Thomas Tuchel wasn't your guy, then why hang on to him only 6 matches into the season and, not have him, be gone earlier? Because if you thought that the relationship wasn't working, he wasn't listening to you, if you're from your own mind, you thought something was going on, the chemistry wasn't right, why hang on to him? Why make this decision now at 100 matches in less than 600 days? Probably should have made it earlier, but that's just me. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on. But, so that's the early story with what's up with Chelsea, and we'll keep an eye on that when it comes to everything going on. Let's see. Let's look at viewing for today. So that's something that we've always done, is we've checked viewing habits and what folks can look at when it comes to the weekend in television. And we'll do that. Well, National Soccer Hall of Fame announced their class for 2023. We'll look at that as well. Today, college soccer on the ACC network. BN has Ligue 1 at 3. FS1 has Liga MX at 10. Spanish simulcast of Ligue 1 on BN in Espanol. Ada Football has French D1 Arkema, PSG, and Soyo. That is at 3 o'clock. You've got on the 3 and the plus, you have college soccer and Bundesliga. Bundesliga on the plus at 2:20. Bundesliga Bay is at 12:30. Holstein Kiel and Hamburg. Spanish La Liga Santander, Girona, and Valladolid is at 3, so it might be a look at Tati Castellanos for you. Once again, remember, you got Friday night football on MLS at 7:30. A lot of college soccer on the men's and women's side. Friday night football, USL Championship, Red Bulls 2 and the Miami FC. League 1 has 2 matchups. North Carolina FC hosting Central Valley, Charlotte and Greenville. Both of them are at 7 o'clock. Argentina Primera División all day on Paramount Plus. Barraca Central and Lanús at 2:30. Patronato Platense at 5. Estudiantes Racing Club and Tigre and Huracan at 7:30. NWSL is on Paramount Plus at 7 and 10. Scottish Championship, Cove Rangers and Dundee are at 2:45. VIX Plus has Liga MX at 8 with Necaxa and Club America. So that is your viewing habits for today. We'll get into juice boxes in just a little bit. National Soccer Hall of Fame announced their class for 2023, and 10 players, 10 veterans. Announced as finalists, as many as 3 players, 2 veterans, and a builder can be selected for the class, announced May 6th, picked by committee vote. 20 players, 10 vets, 4 builders are on the ballot. It's pretty stacked. So here's your ballot finalists. DeMarcus Beasley, Beckham, Lori Chalupny, Lauren Cheney-Holiday, Brian Ching, Di Rosario, Landon Donovan, Mo Adu, Thierry Henry, Eddie and Keith Johnson, Jermaine Jones, Shalary Joseph, Robbie Keane, Lori Lindsay, Pablo Mastroeni, Josh McKinney, Gucci Onyewu, Kat Reddick Whitehill, Nick Raimondo. Eligible in the category for a maximum of 7 years, only eligible after 3 years of full retirement. Players finalists in their first year of eligibility include DeMarcus Beasley and Landon Donovan. Top vote getters who didn't get in to the 2022 class: 2023 finalist Lauren Cheney-Holiday at 75%, Josh McKinney at 72.9%. Veteran ballot finalists: Chris Armas, Chico Borja, Mary Harvey, Frankie Haydick, Clint Mathis, Shep Messing, Tony Sane, Kate Saburo, Mark Graf, Tisha Venturini Hoke, and Slavisa Jungle, otherwise known as Steve Jungle, indoor soccer legend Stevie Jungle. Veteran category were players not selected when they were eligible for the player category, fully retired for at least 10 years. The ballot class includes 3 women and 7 men, players born in Ecuador, Serbia, and the U.S. Top vote getter who didn't get in, elected to the 22 class on the 23 ballot, Kate Saburo, Mark Graf at just under 71%. All of the veteran finalists represented either the men's or women's national teams except for Stevie Jungle, who defected in December of 78 to escape mandatory military service in Yugoslavia, present-day Serbia, became one of the most successful strikers in American indoor soccer history. Loved Stevie Jungle in his time. He was an absolute magician indoors. Builder ballot finalists, Clive Charles, Jill Ellis, Lothar Osiander, Frank Yallop. That one's going to be a tough one, frankly. They all have a lot of notion behind them as to why they all should be in for one manner, way, shape, or form. Builder category, coaches, refs, owners, administrators. This year's selection will be a coach per the rotation determined in 2020. So there you go. So that's your look at the class. A lot of qualified folks that could be headed into the National Soccer Hall of Fame, and that one's going to be an interesting watch to see what happens with that particular group. So that's your news out of soccer and our friends at Soccer America this morning. Looking at the juice boxes before we get into your comments here, and thanks for all the comments that you guys have been making this morning. And once again, great to have conversations that you guys are having with each other, and that's really cool stuff that I always enjoy about the Twitch pitch that you guys are that you guys always have on a daily basis. And thanks for hanging out with me on a daily basis as well, and making sure that that everything is out there in the ether. Conversations about Atlanta United, MLS, anything's on the table, and I'm glad that we're here on a daily basis, going back and forth on the Twitch pitch. So once again, thanks to y'all for putting up with me as I continue to learn everything going on about being back to doing live stuff. So let's get into juice boxes for today. Before we go, and any other things, like I said, we'll go back into the timeline and go over your comments early this morning. Obviously, we addressed the Joseph Martinez situation and him not being a part of the active roster. Also for Toronto, Insigne and Bernadeschi, I believe. I know Insigne, after the match, the Canadian Classique, he was grabbing his hamstring. So I don't know if he's at 100%. I know that yesterday it was reported that he was attending to a family matter, and I want to say it was Bernadeschi was with him. Either Bernadeschi or Crescito was with him to support him in that matter. So we'll see. Does Insigne travel? And, is he a part of Toronto's lineup for Greg Vanney for this massive 6-pointer tomorrow night at 7:30 at Mercedes-Benz for Toronto FC going up against Atlanta United? For the remainder of the morning, it's a lot of stuff in Eastern Europe and North Africa, working its way through into the lunch hour. You're still in Europe and getting everything off and running for the weekend there in the lower divisions, carrying itself all the way through till 1 o'clock. Liga MX Femenil, Pumas and Cruz Azul. Pumas is a favorite at -169. Also, getting into the National League in France by 1:30. You still got Europe. We mentioned Argentina and the Primera, so that's what we're looking at as well. Netherlands is going on. Liga Profesional at 2:30. Baraka Central is an underdog at home as Lanús comes to town at a +156. Baraka Central is a +191. Serie B, Palermo and Genoa. Genoa's a favorite on the road at a -109. That one's at 2:30. Nicolifi will be interested in that one. You've got, once again, Ligue 1, Lens and Troy. Lens is a -217 at 3 o'clock as Troy comes to town at a +584. San Marino, Campeonato Samarinese. That's at 3:15. I just had to say that because I have San Marino stuff here in the office. World Friendlies, Primera División in Venezuela, starting late afternoon. Liga de Expansión in Liga MX, that's at 6 o'clock. NWSL numbers, Orlando Pride hosting Portland Thorns. The Thorns are a -200 at 7 o'clock. The Miami FC is a -175 heading to Montclair to take on Red Bulls 2. That one is also at 7. Greenville Triumph a plus 104 on the road as they go to Charlotte Independence. Central Valley Fuego, a road favorite, heading to Cary, North Carolina to take on North Carolina FC as a plus 140. North Carolina is a plus 161. Tigre and Huracan, Liga Profesional de Football in Argentina. Tigre at home is a plus 164. Huracan is a plus 190. Racing Club is a road favorite at a plus 156, going up against Estudiantes at a plus 183. Canadian Premier League, York United, a minus 106 at 7:30, hosting Edmonton. CF Montreal's changed a little bit since we went on the air this morning. CF Montreal's a minus 123 as Crew come to town at a plus 340. And MLS Next Pro, San Jose Quakes 2, Real Monarchs, Costa Rica Primera, Punta Arenas and Sporting San Jose. MLS Next Pro at 10 after dark, Whitecaps 2 and Tacoma Defiance. NWSL, rain or an even money plus 100 as Chicago comes to town at a plus 242. Your late game, Liga MX, Juarez and Monterrey. Monterrey is a plus 108 with Juarez a home plus 274. So let's go back into the timeline and all the way up to the top. And working our way through all of the comments. Bam giving us the AFL update this morning, and thank you for doing that as we get closer to the Final Four. Brisbane beat Melbourne 92-79. The Lions facing Geelong next weekend. Emilio, Toronto plays well at the bins, I maintain. I thought I read Toronto's high in the league in scoring early goals. Atlanta leads are high in the league in giving up early goals. And like we were talking about with Michael Parkhurst and with Jarrett, you cannot give up early goals. But I imagine that this game is going to be one that's you're going to see a lot of offense because 1 point does does both teams no good. So I think that you're going to see a lot of wide open stuff when it comes to the match here on the weekend. And I admit I'll probably end up going back and forth with everything. Pacine with PSV with status. So let me check on that really quickly, working both computers here. So as it loads, what'd you send, Alex? Come on, load up. PSV have entered a multi-year partnership with Austin FC. The new partnership will feature the two clubs exchanging knowledge and expertise on scouting, education, player development, and more. Very interesting. So PSV and Austin FC. So I guess what's the PSV equivalent to Bang Your Drum and Verde Listos? Well, we'll find out what's going on there. With that, very interesting. PSV and Austin FC. So that will be an interesting relationship going forward. We're seeing that with teams in Major League Soccer that aren't part of massive ownership groups where you have all these tentacles all over the place. But yeah, it's very, very cool to see that is paired up with Austin FC. Sharif with a question to the floor, and I'm hoping that it was answered because I looked at it and I think it's literally Sharif. I think that Timber Joey just gives you the slab, maybe one of the scarves that's associated with it, but I think it's just the slab. You hold it up high and celebrate with the supporters group. Sharif wants to know what happens with the rings that are cut off the tree. Do they engrave game, player, date, and minute number of the goal? I think literally it's just given to the player. It's like, here's your piece of wood. And for someone like Diego Valeri, I'm sure, had his own tree by the time he was done. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think it's just literally, it is just the slab that Timber Joey chops off. And I think it's just handed. It's just like, bang, here you go. But yeah, for all those folks that scored a lot of goals in their time in Portland, you make your own trees. Alex, still waiting to find out about Insigne. And so, I don't have any, because it seemed to be a family thing. But yeah, Insigne was a little dinged up at the end of the Canadian Classique. But yes, Insigne was attending to a family matter and was getting support from his Italian teammates as well. So don't know if he's traveling, don't know if he's going to be involved, but we'll keep an eye on that, obviously. I have not eaten lunch at the training center, Michael. I'm glad. Good to know the food was top notch. So we'll keep an eye on that. Sharif, getting into the discussion we were having with Michael Parkhurst, generally for development purposes for kids, critique and advice should be balanced between what a person has done well in addition to what could be improved. And I think tone is important as well. I think that there's a way in phrasing that is just as important when it comes to constructive criticism. I think that there's a way to go ahead and say it. It's like, there are ways to say it and there are ways not to say it. And disappointingly, there are folks that still are very, very blunt in their criticisms when it comes to trying to be constructive in it. And it comes out completely and totally wrong. And I think that it's something that has to be looked at and monitored going forward. Barbecue day in North Alabama for Will. Won't be asleep for about another 38 hours. About to make a brisket and 3 butts. Okay, so you're going to have to take pictures. Whistle Stop Weekend barbecue competition is today and tomorrow. So we'll take pictures of the barbecue, post them to Discord, post them to our social media, and let us know, A, what you're cooking. Obviously, we know that it's brisket and butts, but we need to see the evidence. We need to see progress. We need to see process. And we need to see the final result. And do well, please, in the barbecue competition. So we need a full update on that on Monday when it comes to barbecue. Bam, and I know that Knicks were getting into a discussion about what's going to happen now that the Queen has passed, and it's going to be King Charles III, anticipating something happening down the line. That's a big conversation you guys were having there about that. Sharif, in my generation, the tough love was critique first. Kids not built that way in the current generations. In my generation, the tough love was tough love. It wasn't really even critiquing. It was like, the first note was what you did wrong and basically fix it. And so that's the generational element there that's attached to that. For me, it was like, okay, here's what you did wrong. Fix it. Don't do it anymore. That's basically, that was your warning shot across the bow. It's like, fix it. Don't do it. Will, does Potter use wingers? Honestly, I think, though, like I said, I think that it's going to be an interesting test case. Michael Head, I know that you and I were discussing, and you mentioned later in the Twitch pitch about zero-sum chance that Potter makes it through his contract. I agree. So it's going to be a massive payout for Graham Potter when they're not happy with him after the end of next season. Did I just say that in my out loud voice? But it's going to be an interesting test case with how Potter integrates with the talent that is there, what he's looking for, and how it all meshes together. I think it's going to be an interesting test case to see what happens with all of that stuff. Let's see. Bam and Knicks going back and forth on all of this with Queen Elizabeth II. And once again, it's a Friday. Sometimes conversations go in different directions. This is very cool that you guys are doing this. And then coming to the end, let me double check that and see what we're looking at here when it comes to what is being reported. Okay, Zach Klein from WSB TV after 20 minutes ago. Zach and WSB have learned Atlanta United will bring back Gonzalo Pineda for the 2023 season. Let's see. Steve Cannon told Channel 2 Gonzalo Pineda will be coaching Atlanta United in 2023. While we continue to battle for a playoff spot this year, he will have our full confidence in the opportunity to manage a full and healthy roster next year. So that is your note and your quote from Steve Cannon. So that's your details there. Gonzalo Pineda will return as your manager for Atlanta United back in the beginning of the 2023 season, and it will be the first time since Tata Martino that a manager will get a second window to mold a roster. And we saw when Tata Martino came to town for the friendly with El Tri, the confidence that he had in Gonzalo Pineda as a manager. So high praise from Tata Martino in the same building that Tata Martino won MLS Cup. So we'll see what happens there with Gonzalo Pineda set to return in 2023. And Bam says, hopefully your match this weekend isn't ruined by pro. And we can probably hopefully say that across the board for everyone here in Major League Soccer. And and Bam's right. You will never see a manager last as long as Sir Alex and others lasted ever again. That's just the way the nature of the business is. So business is a business and turnover is turnover. And do not be, you're looking at manager tenure. And let me look at manager tenure. Short of Peter Vermes, MLS longest tenured managers. I think it's Vermees, and it will be Brian Schmetzer. I think that's your 1 and your 2 during the 2022 season. So here we go. After Miguel Angel Ramirez, longest tenure in order. So I was close. Vermees, Jim Curtin is your 2. Schmetzer your 3. Heath is your 4. Gio Savarese is your 5. So that's where we are with that. So your top 5: Vermees, Curtin, Schmetzer, Adrian Heath, and Gio Savarese. That's your top 5. They've been able to build in their places for a very long time. Yeah, Curtin was your number 2, Nix. So yeah, we got your top 5. Gonzalo Pineda set to return for the 2023 season. So later today, we will have an interview with our friends from the USL Jacksonville project. That will be up. We're catching up with Steve Livingstone. That'll be up later this afternoon on the network. Don't forget to download the Soccer Down Here app, available iOS and Android, soccerdownhere.net for all of the programming. Set your alerts when we have programming popping up on Twitter. And so today we will post this show on the network. We'll post the segment with Michael Parkhurst in its entirety, and then we'll have the USL Jacksonville folks as they look to bring USL. Yeah, he has been manager since day one. He was there before they were even Major League Soccer. Will he was there when they were USL, working their way up, and he was in Orlando as well. So Heath has been manager since day one, and so we'll have USL to Jacksonville. They're looking to have the program up and running by 2025, and USL Championship looking for a 15,000-seat stadium for USL Championship as well. So we'll catch up with Steve Livingston and find out what the latest is with the USL to Jacksonville project, and we will keep you posted with everything here on the network. So for, once again, a very busy Friday, thanks to Michael Parkhurst and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring for hanging out with us as they do every single Friday. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us on the Twitch pitch. And thanks to Jared as well for hopping on for the weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming. 7:38 kick. Mercedes-Benz dress for weather, because the weather's supposed to be pretty crappy today and tomorrow. So dress for conditions and look for Atlanta United and Toronto FC to chase after full points at Mercedes-Benz. Be loud, 17s. Guys are going to need it after the week that we have had here involving Atlanta United, both on and off the pitch. So thanks for hanging out once again, and we will do this again on Monday, and we will have all the reactions, over, under, on par after the match that happened Saturday night, everything else that happened, the twos this weekend. Now that I'm thinking about it, let's see what's going on in USL Championship this weekend. Atlanta United 2 lost to Memphis 901 in the midweek, and that was a tough one. Memphis 901 and Ben Pierman, they are going to be a tough out. Trust me, when it comes to the playoff picture. Standings right now, and you look, and it is going to be a race for everything in the USL Championship when it comes to playoffs. We also have the weekly wrap-up show with the USL Championship coming in across the board. Next match for Atlanta United 2 is in Boca against the Miami FC next weekend. So next Sunday, if my math is correct. So 10-11 Sunday. So next Sunday in Boca against the Miami FC as they're chasing after a playoff spot. Atlanta United 2 they won one of the matches. They won the match in the midweek against FC Tulsa 2-1. Lost the other 2 in the homestand. So 4 more matches left in the season for Atlanta United 2. One more home game, and that is on the 27th, I believe, in the midweek against Indy 11, 27th or 28th, the last Wednesday of the month. So it is at the Miami FC. Then it's 7 or 8 days off. Then it is against Indy 11 at the Fraction, last Wednesday of the month. Be there, send them off for the home finale. Then it's 2 games out west to finish up with your schedule for Atlanta United 2 in 2022. So it's enjoy your games all across the board. There's a lot of them, a lot of viewing that will be had on the weekend. So once again, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out with each other. Thanks for catching up with each other and having the conversations that you do, whether it's here in the Discord, all over the place on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, let me check real quick to see if anyone has any thoughts when it comes to the Twitters. I think we're caught up. Okay, cool. We're great. So very, very cool in this conversation. So thanks to everybody who's been watching. Thanks to everybody who's been listening and hanging out. So since it is the end of the show and another end of another week here at SDH, that's when I do this.